What's going on, guys? I wanted to hop on this Facebook Live because I've been getting a lot of questions about how you can go out and potentially find storage deals without having to spend money on direct mail and all these crazy PPC campaigns and building up your SEO. And guys, that's one of the benefits of just being able to access information online and just leveraging Google is that I'm going to show you some very specific, easy, and practical ways that you guys can go out there and start locating potential storage deals. And then more specifically, like what are some of the things that I look for? This morning I was being interviewed on a friend's podcast, and he shared with me something that I think I kind of take for granted since I've been in storage for the last three and a half years, is that he was sharing that it feels to him like it's very complicated to go out there and try to find these deals and find these opportunities. And I want to debunk that myth. I want to go ahead and show you on here live how you can just jump on Google Maps and how you can potentially bring up a list of storage facilities that might or might not be a deal, right? And the purpose of this live isn't necessarily to show and depict, hey, this is what is a deal and isn't, but how you can just, with a little bit of time, energy, and effort, jump on Google Maps and start locating and start calling, like start getting in front of storage owner operators. And then I'm also going to share with you what are the few key pieces of information that you need to collect in order to then take the next step to evaluate and analyze the deal. So first things first is I recorded a podcast on this, which I think I'll drop a link once I'm done with the live. But how do we even think about and choosing, how do we pick the right market? One thing I would recommend is just start with your local state, right? Like the beautiful thing about storage is that with technology and with automation, you can successfully run, operate, and manage storage facilities from anywhere in the world. 90% of the business, I would say, is automated. And that surprises a lot of people. People think that you need to have a local employee there, and that's just not the case. So what I want to do on this particular live is show you what I do on Google Maps to start honing in on what are the types of storage facilities that I'm looking to call to see if potentially there's some motivation there. So start with your local state. And what I would recommend doing is, I don't live in Louisiana, I live in Florida, but one of the things you can do is just put in state by population. So state, city by population. And I just brought up Louisiana, cities by population. And I like to target secondary and tertiary markets. And actually, I realize that I'm not sharing my screen here. So give me 1 second. Let me share my screen with you. And I'm going to walk you through this step by step. Share screen. Okay. So you should be able to see my screen here any second now. So hopefully you can, but I am sharing with you. I just went to Google and I did Louisiana cities by population. And I pulled up one of the first websites at the top of Google. And one of the things I like to look for are cities with a population that have anywhere between 8,000 and 75,000 people, right? We're looking at secondary, tertiary markets. I'm not looking to buy storage in Miami or Los Angeles or Vegas or big cities like that. I'm looking for smaller areas, smaller towns. Now, granted, I'm not looking for cities that have 400 people, right? That's not big enough. But I am looking for cities that have a population of, on the low end, 4,000 or 5,000. On the high end, 100,000. Kind of the sweet spot is 8,000 to 75,000. So I just, for the sake of time, I chose Mansfield, Louisiana, because it's only 4,500 people in that town. But I'm going to share with you a few things that kind of clued me into, hey, this potentially could be a good market, right? So what I want you to do is, and I'm going to kind of walk you through this step by step, is go to Google Maps, right? Which I already have up here, but let me just go to Google Maps, which I think is maps.google.com. So I'm going to click here, and then you're going to put in the city and state in the search bar of Google Maps. So we're going to put in here Mansfield, Louisiana. Hopefully I spelled that right. Here it is, Mansfield, Louisiana. And then this little button that says nearby, we're going to click on this and we're going to type in self-storage. What this is going to do is bring up all of the storage facilities in and around Mansfield, Louisiana that Google picks up. Okay. And that's important because sometimes when you're Google driving for dollars, you're going to come across facilities that maybe don't have a Google My Business listing or that are not being picked up by Google. Those are opportunities. So if you have a virtual assistant or if you have somebody out there Google driving for dollars, and looking at like the aerial view and being able to spot those long rectangular buildings, those could be opportunities if they're not on Google. They might also be opportunities even if they are. And that's exactly what I'm going to show you here. So I typed in self-storage and I hit enter. And now this is going to bring up all of the facilities that Google is picking up. Let me go back to StreamYard to make sure. Oh, you know what? I realized that you guys are still looking at the cities by population. Let me share my screen again. Give me 1 second. I'm gonna see if I can stop sharing my screen, and because I want you to see Google Maps and what I'm actually doing here. And this is something that you can teach anybody. It could be a team member, it could be a virtual assistant. So hopefully now you're seeing Google Maps for Mansfield, Louisiana. So one of the things that I immediately look for is when I get an overview here, I'm trying to identify, are there any major storage operators in the market? And what I mean by a major player is Public Storage, Extra Space, Cube Smart, Life Storage. Those are some of the big national operators that are run by REITs, real estate investment trusts, people that have deep pockets. That's not who we're trying to compete against. Those are not the type of facilities that we're going after. We're going after mom and pop operated storage facilities. I like to target anywhere between 20,000 net rentable square feet all the way up to about 80,000 net rentable square feet. But immediately when I pull up all the facilities on Google Maps, I'm trying to identify, are there any major players in this market, right? And usually the major players stick to the big markets like Miami, Vegas, Los Angeles. So this is another reason I like the secondary and tertiary market. So right off the bat, I can see that the 3 or 4 facilities that we have here are probably mom and pop run and operated. These are the types of markets that I look for. The second thing I look for is I'm immediately drawn to the facilities that do not have a website. As an example, U-Store-It, Mansheld, they don't have a website. The second and third thing I look for are little to no reviews or bad reviews on Google. So as an example, U-Store-It, Mansheld only has 3 stars, only 1 review. Red Door Storage doesn't have any reviews. So immediately, those are the ones that I'm going to start calling. Let me just get a drink of water here. So when I jump on here, those are the ones that my eye is drawn towards. And it doesn't mean that there's not a potential deal if they do have a website. The very first storage facility that I bought in Mississippi had a website. They had a Google My Business listing. So I don't want you to avoid calling the facilities that have a website, but I do like to start with the ones that don't have a website or they have little to no reviews, right? So when you call these people, what are the key pieces of information that you need to collect? Aside from this particular live isn't about like how to have a conversation with the seller, building rapport. Like we're not going to get too much into the sales side of what the conversation and the relationship building needs to look like. Let's just suppose that you guys know that that's very important. But as far as like what's the information that you need to collect, you always want to try to get the unit mix. So what is the unit mix? The unit mix is how many 5x5s, how many 5x10s, how many 10x10s. So you want to find out the quantity of each one of those unit sizes and unit types. And then you want to find out how much they're currently asking for getting in rent. Now, sometimes that information is on the website. So, excuse me, let me just go ahead and pull up this particular facility, additional storage. So we're going to click on unit sizes and prices. So in this particular case, they have their prices online. So if they have their prices online, I'll just verify with the owner that their prices are a reflection of what they're currently asking for. Because it's not uncommon that they just haven't updated their website. So I'll just verify and confirm. Hey, Mr. Seller, the 10 by 10, it looks like you guys are getting 72.95 for the non-climate and 91.95 for the climate. Is that accurate? Right? And let them tell you. But if you just have the unit mix information and you have what they're asking for in rent, just with that information, I can, on the back of a napkin, analyze the facility within 1 to 2 minutes and kind of come up with a ballpark value of that facility. You can also compare it to the market rates by doing a little bit of research on what others, like what's called the market street rates. You go out and you look at all the facilities within a 5-mile radius, and you look at what they're currently getting in rent. Ideally, what you're looking for is a gap between what they're currently asking for and getting in rent and what the market says the rent is. The bigger the gap, the bigger the opportunity that you have to potentially go in there, structure an offer, and do a value add, right? With a light value add, which is basically just raising the rents to match the market street rates. So we're not going to get too much into that, but I wanted to at least share this with you because this is something that you can train a virtual assistant. This is something that you can do. Maybe if you're sitting on the couch watching TV or like you're on your downtime, just pick a market based on a city that has a population between 8,000 and 65, 70, 75,000 people. In this particular example, I chose a market that has about 4,600 people. That's okay. But really what I want you to do is just the repetitions, the practice of going out, knowing what to look for, and then calling people just to get that information. If you can get the revenue for the previous year and the current year-to-date revenue, that's also a helpful piece of information. But at the very minimum, if you're able to build rapport, start to build a relationship with the storage owner operator, find out what the unit mix is, obviously find out if they would consider selling, if there's any level of motivation. I have found that the majority of storage owner operators that I connect with and communicate with are older in age. They've owned and run the business for many, many years. And oftentimes they're looking to retire. They're looking to just sell and kind of be done with the business. That potentially represents an opportunity for you to help them and for you to get your hands on a good deal. So check out the podcast that I released this last Monday where I went a little bit deeper. What I wanted to do on this live was actually show you like what are some of the things I look for. And by the way, you can do this anywhere in the country. So you just go to Google Maps. You can pick a particular market. Like we could look at, I don't know, we could look at Center, Louisiana, right? I have no idea. Go through the same exact process. So if I was to go here to Google Maps and we're going to do, let's just take a look at what we have as far as storage facilities in Center, Louisiana. Center, Louisiana. Here we go. All right. Then you're going to click on the nearby button and we're going to type in self-storage again to bring up the facilities in and around Center, Louisiana. And so take a look at this particular market right off the bat. I can see there's a lot of competition. There's a ton of storage facilities kind of in this area. There's a Red Dot Storage, which is a big national player. So this might not be a market that I necessarily target. It doesn't mean you couldn't do a deal here, but one of the things I would want to go deeper in and find out is what's called the supply index, which is basically just a term that basically indicates how many square feet of storage do you have relative to the population, right? So there's a particular supply index number that we look for. But just looking at this particular city, I can see there's a lot of storage facilities in the area. So I might want to go a little bit further out and target some of these markets, right? I don't necessarily want to be in the heart of a major city, not to say that you couldn't find an opportunity there, but I like to start with a secondary and tertiary market. So hopefully, guys, that's helpful for you. If you have any questions, let me stop sharing my screen here. If you have any questions and you need my help, or you just want to have a conversation about storage, I recently started working with people privately one-on-one. And in fact, I have one particular client who is about to put an offer in on a facility. And it's pretty amazing how when you focus on the right things, and not let your knowledge gap stop you or your limiting beliefs stop you. I've talked to so many people that think they need a bunch of money in a bank account in order to get involved in storage, or they think it's much more complicated than it is, when it's the exact opposite. It's a pretty simple business. It doesn't have a lot of moving parts, but there are some specific things that you need to do in order to put yourself in position to potentially get a storage deal. So if you guys have any questions and you want to have a conversation about what that could look like, text me the word storage deal to 305-318-6213. And then we'll set up a time to chat and kind of walk you through it. But I at least wanted to leave you with some information about how you can go out and start finding opportunities. This doesn't cost you a penny. It just costs a little bit of time, energy, and effort. And then we can go maybe deeper on another podcast or on another live as to like how to have that conversation and what does that need to look like. So hopefully you guys found this live helpful. If you need anything, let me know. I'll drop the link to the podcast that I just released on Monday below, and comment, share, let me know if you have any questions, and we'll go from there. Have an awesome one, guys. Take care.